Hi everyone, Ensign Flood from class of 2019. Today we're going to talk about adrenal pathology, which is involved and kind of complex, so let's just dive in going from layer to layer. So let's start with the first layer of the cortex, the zona glomerulosa. So this is what regulates sodium via aldosterone. And if you remember, aldosterone is part of that RAS system, so the renin, angiotensin, and aldosterone pathway. So basically, this starts in the kidney, where a hypoperfused kidney says there's not enough sodium, so it secretes renin, which converts the zymogen angiotensinogen into Ang1. Ang1 gets converted to Ang2 via ACE, which then gets converted to aldosterone. And the net effect of this whole system is that we have an increase in the blood pressure because of vasoconstriction and water retention. And recall that when water is reabsorbed, sodium will follow it. However, this is through a process of a sodium-potassium exchange, so if sodium is increasing, potassium should be decreasing. So when we have pathologies where there's excess aldosterone, just as I mentioned, we should have hypertension, hypernatremia, but hypokalemia. Pretty straightforward. Now, when we have hypoaldosteronism, something to consider is that this typically isn't isolated. It's actually in conjunction with hypocortisolism, and the two of those things together is known as adrenal insufficiency. This can happen acutely, such as in response to a Neisseria infection, so Waterhouse-Friderichsen, or chronically like Addison's. So when we see the aldosterone contribution here, the hypoaldosteronism, we're going to see basically the opposite of hyper. We'll see hypotension, things like fatigue. We'll see hyponatremia, especially in acute states, and potentially hyperkalemia. Now, diagnosing the two is a little bit different because, as you can see, there's hyperaldosteronism and then the coupled adrenal insufficiency. So let's go through those. So when we diagnose hyperaldosteronism, we have to think to ourselves, well, is it coming from renin? Or is it just an ectopic source of aldosterone? So if we look at the aldosterone to renin ratio and we see greater than 20, it means it's not just a stenotic renal vessel that's secreting a lot of renin. It means that there's another second source of aldosterone. So the most sensitive test we can do is to then take a sample from the renal vein to see the levels of aldosterone, and those should be increased too. But this isn't always necessary because it's very invasive. What we do always want to do is a BMP because electrolyte imbalance can be dangerous. So we're going to see that hypokalemia. We might also see hypernatremia, right? And we can confirm this by a CT scan, which should show either unilateral or bilateral masses in the adrenal glands. Now, if we're thinking about an insufficiency, an adrenal insufficiency. As I mentioned before, this is a pairing between hypoaldosteronism and hypocortisol. So we should see the inverse in terms of the electrolytes, as I mentioned, hyperkalemia and hyponatremia. But because cortisol is insufficient, we should also be seeing a low blood glucose level. And the trick here is to see, well, does the adrenal gland respond to ACTH, which is known as a concentropin test, and if it doesn't respond to concentropin, you know that there's an insufficiency. So that's the confirmation for hypoaldosteronism, i.e. adrenal insufficiency. Sorry about that. So when we treat, well, hyperaldosteronism is pretty straightforward, right? We have these ectopic tumors inside of the adrenal gland, and if it's unilateral, we can just cut it out. But if it's bilateral, you can't lose your adrenal gland, so you have to treat by inhibiting aldosterone, so spironolactone. If we have hypoaldosteronism, well, a couple of things. One is that this can be chronic, so basically we can just replace what's missing, so hydrocortisone for cortisol and fludrocortisone for the aldosterone. If this is acute, remember this is an emergent issue, so yes, the above absolutely, but we also want to make sure that electrolytes are controlled and that the patient's non-toxic. So the next layer is a little bit more straightforward. That's the zona fasciculata, so in control of sugar. So the way that we look at this axis is you have the CRH from the hypothalamus, and that signals for ACTH through the pituitary gland. Remember, that's also known as cosyntropin. And then we get cortisol. So when we're thinking about cortisol levels, we have high cortisol levels known as basically Cushing. Cushing syndrome refers to just high levels of cortisol. Cushing disease refers to high levels of ACTH from the pituitary. Adrenal insufficiency, we talked about, that's the hypoaldosteronism with hypocortisolism. So we're not really going to focus on that. We're going to really focus on this Cushing, and is it something that's a syndrome, so the elevation of cortisol, or is it the disease, something that's elevated with the ACTH? So the diagnosis, well, we have to confirm cortisol is elevated. So we want to take a 24-hour urine cortisol. Now there's a few different approaches to this, but at least from Kaplan, what they say is take the ACTH level next, because if it's low, then you know it's the adrenal that's secreting all this cortisol, or it's exogenous. If it's high, then it's probably going to be from the pituitary gland or some ectopic site, like a little tumor that's secreting ACTH. Now, because we don't know if it's pituitary or ectopic, what we have to do is a high dexamethasone suppression test. Recall that cortisol should actually go and inhibit ACTH. So if it's the pituitary gland that's basically out of control secreting all this ACTH, and we add dexamethasone, it should suppress the pituitary gland secretion. But if it doesn't suppress, then there's another site that's responsible for this elevation in ACTH. So that's a separate issue, but what we do know is that if it's pituitary, you want to look through an MRI to see about that mass. And the big thing about treatment is to get rid of the excess amount of cortisol in the body. So whether that's going to be stopping the person from taking steroids or some sort of surgical procedure. So the next thing we're not really going to touch on, that's the zona reticularis. It's the site of CAH, which is a really important topic, but for pediatrics. So finally, we're going to go to the adrenal medulla, and we're going to keep this really brief because that's the site of pheochromocytoma. So important little note about the adrenal medulla, unlike the rest of the adrenal glands, this is neural crest cells. So these neural crest cells actually secrete different catecholamines. So because of basically aberrant signaling from catecholamines, you get the 6 Ps. So I add 6 Ps because this is periodic episodes of pressure, so hypertension, palpation, pain in the form of headache, pallor, or perspiration. And so if you see basically these really odd episodes, you want to get a 24-hour metanephrine on these people. So that's like your VMA. And then once you've confirmed, yes, this is abnormal, you want to actually do an MIBG scan or some sort of imaging to confirm that there is some sort of tumor there. But before you go and just cut it out, you have to follow the ABC so that you don't get a catecholamine storm. So basically, alpha blockade first, that's phenoxybenzamine, followed by beta blockade. You can also choose to treat with calcium channel blockers, and then surgical removal. So it's easy as ABC. So just to kind of recap everything, we have hyperaldosteronism. Then you always want to look to see about aldosterone in proportion to rennet. We have hypoaldosteronism, which is part of a larger constellation, adrenal insufficiency. So you want to consider aldosterone and cortisol function. Conversely, if it's hypocortisolism, consider aldosterone. Then we have hypercortisolism, so Cushing's. Is it going to be Cushing's syndrome, so high cortisol, or is it going to be Cushing disease, so high ACTH? And we do this by, 1, confirming that there is cortisol, check the ACTH levels, then you want to check the ACT response to that high dexamethasone, and finally remove the source of the cortisol. Last, we have the pheochromocytoma, which is the 6 Ps. So that's that periodic episode of pressure, palpation, pain, pallor, perspiration, and treat via ABC and then surgery. All right, great job, everybody. Study hard.